Okay, wonderful. So did you know that women's ambition increases after the age of 55 before peaking at 65? While many of us fear aging as a time in our lives when we'll become invisible, it can actually be a vibrant and empowering moment to finally learn to embrace who we are and to push ahead with our goals. In fact, research shows, contrary to popular belief, many women reach their peak in the second stage of our lives. Happily accepting the aging process is one way it has a psychological benefit for both our work and our personal lives. Also, many studies show that engaging in physical activities in midlife will extend longevity and improve the quality of life. So in this session today, we have 3 women across the fitness industries who can share how fitness has really impacted and supported them to thrive through midlife. So I would like to introduce Tanya Dalton, Pauline Manley, and Kathy McGillivray. In order to keep safe time, we will just post their bios in the chat. Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to start off. So welcome our beautiful speakers. Welcome Tanya, welcome Pauline, and welcome Kathy. So I'm going to start with the first question, and we're going to start off with Tanya. So in Western cultures, when we think about midlife, we're not encouraged to think of it as a time for women to thrive. What messages did you receive about midlife? Okay, so we're just on yes.
Hi, Faith. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, I'm super excited to be part of this because, as you might know, I'm super passionate about healthy aging and women thriving in midlife. So when I think back to the messages I received about midlife, I always think about my nan. And I'm sure she was around 50 when she started talking about the change and how it was just such a bad part of her life, and it seemed like it was like this downward spiral to the end. And I think even when she was probably around 50, she actually and I recall this really vividly because it was a big part of her life. I can remember sitting in her bedroom and she was showing us the pajamas she picked out for when she was going to be buried. I mean, she was probably in her 50s, maybe 60s, but not old at all. So and my nan lived until she was 91. So she had this like kind of 40 years of talking about death, and she had so much living to do. So that was kind of my very first kind of memories about what midlife was about. And obviously it sounded terrifying. So of course, when I reached 50, I'm thinking, hello, what's going on here? I can't live. If I live till I'm the same age as my nan was when she died, 91, then I can't live for 40 years picking out my silk satin pajamas for my coffin and thinking the change is going to be this terrible downward spiral to the end of my life. Yeah, so that's why I've maybe done things differently and hopefully, yeah, living a kind of different life. And I can remember my nan, like she was kind of dressed, and it's kind of part of the era as well, but she dressed old as well. So, you know, her floral dresses and things, and I've got floral dresses as well, but maybe they're a different kind of floral dress than she did. And the other side of that as well, as I started to reach midlife, and as you might know, I'm quite passionate about the whole menopause transition. I found it really interesting that women didn't talk about menopause at all. There was this kind of veil of secrecy around it. And obviously, just over the last, I'm pretty lucky, I feel that as I've gone through that transition, it's kind of become a bit of a buzzword and people are actually talking about it. But I did find it really interesting that it was all very secret. And I'd be sitting at dinner with friends who had obviously transitioned through menopause and no one had ever mentioned it before. And I found that really shocking because I'm going through this thing and I started asking questions and they're going, yeah, telling me all the things, but no one had ever mentioned it before. It's such a secret kind of part of life. And I really do feel that the more we talk about things, it doesn't seem so scary, and it can be much more empowering if people are able to talk about it more.
Thank you. I love the saying that we're only as sick as our secret, and there's a secrecy around menopause that really makes it more terrifying for women. You know, and I loved what you said about your grandmother. You know, just that idea when we get to 50, that's the turning point, and it's kind of like hang anything decent and sexy up, and let's put on the silk pajamas.
Yeah.
And it's great to see how you've pushed against that in a way, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm happy that I'm aging, and I accept that things are going to change, but then I'm also not thinking that this is the best part of my life is over. I feel like the best part of my life is just starting. So yeah, I don't feel like I'm not anti-aging. I'm actually relishing the aging process. Obviously it creates some issues, but I really do feel like we can reframe it and make it a really positive part of life, rather than this, like my nan, this downward spiral, which didn't even need to be, because she lived quite healthily until she was 91.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. Okay, let's go to Pauline. Same question to you. Sorry, you've unmuted again. There we go.
Hello, everyone. Very nice to be here. I'm talking to you from Melbourne. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking on the land of the Wurundjeri people. And it's very nice to be in this forum. And this is such an interesting question that you can take so many perspectives from. And it was really interesting that Tanya was talking about her grandmother, because when I thought about this question, the first thing that came to mind was my mother. And my mother was quite glam, and she was out and about in her mid-age. And I just remember, like, in the 70s, like, she wore flares and platforms and had big hair, and like, I think she modeled a kind of aging for me that was really positive. Because a lot of the advertising that you get is anti-aging, and they actually use that as a catchphrase. You know, this cream is anti-aging. It will stop you aging. Like, it's such a terrible thing. But I did also think about my vulnerabilities around this issue of aging, and like, so my background is in dance, and in the dance community, you can be regarded as old at 35. So I experienced a kind of context around aging that really was a bit unhinging. And I had my first kind of little conniption when I was about in my early 30s. So in my early 30s, I'm worried about aging already. And I started to get little lines around my mouth, and that's, my mother's got them too. So it's a genetic sort of, you know, just me. And I'm really embarrassed to say this, but I actually went to a plastic surgeon to see if we could do something about it. I never went through with it, and I was kind of horrified I went, but I was more horrified that he was actually willing to do something about it. Like, he should have said to me, get out of here, you're a 35-year-old woman, you know, and I was a dancer and I was uber fit, and like, but he didn't say that. He was prepared to make money off me feeling insecure about how I looked at 35. And then I had my major sort of midlife crisis, I call it, when I was in a yoga class and I was in a downward dog position, and I looked at my knees and made God daggy. And I had like, I had to come out of the pose, and I was going, oh my God, you know, what's this? And it was like it was like a mild panic. I'm aging, oh my God. And no one had prepared me for this. No one had talked to me about it. No one had said it was, you know, it was a thing that I had to accept, and that acceptance was going to be the most graceful way to go through aging. And so from about 45 to 47, most of my decisions around my body and myself were inspired by this sense of panic. But what's great, I've got over that now, and I'm 60 next year, and I just sort of think my 50s have been so fantastic. They've just been so full of acceptance, you know, and appreciative of the gifts that being 50 gives me, you know. So, yeah.
Thank you, Pauline. You know, I love what you said about like nobody had prepared you for it. And that's the consistent thing we hear with me. No one's prepared you for it. And, you know, and how it's the most natural thing that's going to happen to us if we're lucky. And how acceptance was kind of like your key, that really great resting place. So I really love that. So thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Kathy, over to you.
Good morning, Faith, and thank you for inviting me along. My message, I think, for when I was midlife was when I first started working, like I was 16, 17, and the older ladies in the office who looked really old. And again, like Tanya said, frumpy clothes, lots of big flowery dresses. And they complained about, you know, how hot they were one minute and how cold they were the next, and how unattractive they were. Like, oh no, I'm 50 now, I'm unattractive. And how much they hated their husbands, how they didn't want sex anymore. That was the messages I got about getting older. You were going to be grumpy, you were going to be hot, you were going to be frumpy, you were never going to enjoy sex again once you got to 45 or 50. And that your whole attitude, your life was over, basically. And that was sort of the message I got, especially as I was in my 20s and 30s. And it was, and again, you knew nothing. All I knew about menopause is I was going to sweat a lot. And that was the only message I got from anyone that was older than me. My mum was 34 when she had me. So by the time I was 20, she was already mid-50s. And, but never mentioned anything about menopause to me. She just, it was one of those things, she just got on with it. Mum's always been very particular about how she looks. She's 96 now, and she still makes sure that her earrings match her necklace. And you know, and even if she's in her slippers match her outfit. So she is very particular about how she looks. But the overall message I got was that once I got to 50 or 60, it was, my life was going to be over. I was going to hate men forever and not want to be touched. I think the worst thing I ever heard, and I was 53 when I saw this on TV in Australia, and a male announcer in his mid-40s on Madonna's 53rd birthday. And I remember it because I'm the same age as Madonna. And on Madonna's 53rd birthday, this male announcer on one of the major channels said that he didn't care who she was, she should not be allowed to wear a miniskirt at 53 years old. And so I immediately swapped channels, and whenever this announcer appears on any TV program, I will still swap channels, because just the idea that a male in his 40s could tell a 53-year-old woman what she was allowed to wear, it was just abhorrent. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way anymore, or it should never have worked that way. But the attitude is still definitely out there. I'm 61, about to turn 62. And I still have people comment on how brave I am that I wear short shorts and mini skirts. But it's what I wear. It's I have the body for it, so it's what I wear. I shouldn't be told what I'm allowed to wear at my age. And I think that's the overall message that a lot of women are still receiving. You are now this age. This is what you're allowed to wear. This is what you're allowed to do. And it's a shame that it's still out there in our community in this day and age.
Yeah. And the grumpy, frumpy, you're not going to be attractive anymore, you're not going to love sex, you know, that message, which is so far from the truth.
Absolutely, you know, and that you shouldn't even try to be attractive. Why would you? You know, it's such a shame.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important having these messages, you know, because we know we're the lived example of what the reality is, you know. Yeah, it's great. Okay, so our second question is, what are or what were the challenges you've had to overcome in midlife? So let's go to Pauline to kick us off for this one. Can we unmute Pauline?
Yep, I think I'm there, am I? Great. Yeah, the challenges in midlife, I found midlife really, really interesting. It's certainly not what I expected. You know, I think, what did John Lennon say? Life is what's happening when you're not paying attention or something. But I actually did a lot of therapy in my 50s. And I did a lot of therapy because I felt like I'd got to the stage where I'd been carrying stuff around with me from my childhood, actually. And I had a really, really difficult childhood. And what I'd done is I'd tried to sort of compartmentalize it or ignore all that stuff and keep going regardless. And, you know, I built a career and, you know, but there was this voice in me that kept going, what's wrong? There's something wrong. And it was interesting because, you know, in my late 40s, I got the absolute dream job I'd always wanted. People told me I was doing really well, and yet I knew something was wrong. And so in my early 50s, I decided to go part-time in my career, which I was told was, you know, career suicide sort of thing. So I was an academic. I was working at universities. I got a PhD in dance and movement principles. I was teaching at a wonderful university, you know, good wage, great job, very interesting. And I just had to pull back and start to look after myself in a different way. And what I realized is what I had to do was not try and just fix everything with hard work. And I had to actually start caring for myself a little more. I had to be a bit more gentle. And so I spent like 6 years going to a therapist every week and really untangling. I had a really abusive childhood. So really untangling a lot of the ways I'd cope with that as a child. And, you know, I think I was really exhausted. And when menopause hit, I got really exhausted again. You know, so that was really challenging for someone who likes to move and groove a lot. You know, I was just sort of thinking, you know, I needed to step back. I needed to take naps. I needed to go to the therapist. I needed to be kind and stroke myself a little bit. And I just sort of feel like since I made that decision, there's just been this huge blossoming within me where I can see how I was trying to fix everything with hard work. And hard work isn't always the answer. And that's the wisdom that's come to me in my 50s especially. My 50s have absolutely been my best decade yet. Hard, really hard. I do find menopause challenging. You know, my symptoms tend to be weight gain, sleep disturbance and headaches. And I'm still sort of on the tail end of all of that. But, you know, I'm strong and healthy and happy, grounded, you know, and I just sort of think, you know, midlife brings such a great deal of wisdom with it that it really compensates for the daggy knees.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And it's interesting that you said that you began therapy or went back to therapy at that time, because that's what I mean, as a psychotherapist, that's what I find. For a lot of people, it's at that stage that the things that they've managed to kind of distract themselves with through busyness, raising family, career, suddenly they get to midlife and they can no longer ignore those things anymore, you know? So it's quite common that a lot of women begin therapy at this stage of life. And I loved your message of gentleness. You know, that for me, that's definitely been key.
Yeah.
Gentleness, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Excellent. Okay, let's go to Kathy.
My challenges in midlife, well, I moved countries at 45, sold absolutely everything and arrived in Australia with my husband with just 13 boxes of clothes. And that, I would say 11 boxes were his clothes. So my whole life changed when I was 45. I moved over here. I was overweight. I was doing admin work. And when I was 48, I decided my New Year's resolution was to get fit and thin. I just wanted to be thin. I'd been 120 kilos. I'd got down to about 90 just through life choices and stuff. I was smoking. I'd just given up smoking. And I went to a gym and decided that I had to get fit. And so at 48, my whole life changed because at 49, I did bodybuilding competitions. So some of the challenges I faced was changing countries, changing jobs, whole new friends set. My whole life changed in my 40s and 50s. I competed in bodybuilding competitions at the start of my 50s. I started my own business at 51. I employed my husband at 52. So my midlife has been probably the busiest and most life-changing part of my whole life. And it's been the best part of my whole life so far. I've still got a lot to go. In doing all that, though, I've had to overcome a lot of stereotypes because of my age. And that's probably the biggest challenge, is getting through the stereotypes of what women in their 50s should be doing with their lives. People expect you to slow down. They certainly don't expect you to take up bodybuilding. You know, they don't expect you to stand on a stage in a tiny bikini when you're 50 years old. And I will tell you now, craft glue can solve a lot of problems. I love my craft glue and what it can do. So I started riding a motorbike at 48. I got my motorbike license. So I started riding Harley motorbikes at 48. And again, the stereotypes of a woman of that age riding a motorcycle still exist. I'm now a 61-year-old motorcycle rider, and I'm by nowhere the oldest. There's 70-year-old women riding motorcycles, but you still get the comments, particularly from men. Gosh, that's a big bike for a lady. You know, can you manage it? Can you push it? So there's a lot of stereotypes that I think at our age group that we have to fight through again, which is a shame. But the challenge, I suppose, is to understand that no matter who you are, you've got to live your own life. Yeah. And it's saying that my husband used to say is, don't live other people's expectations of you. And as a woman of our age, a lot of women, you're expected to enjoy being a nana. You're expected to enjoy staying at home or enjoy being the cook at home and the cleaner, if you're not working full time. And there's a lot of pressure for people to do that, for women our age to do that, to fit these little stereotype boxes where you do still wear the frumpy clothes, and you know, it's nice that you go to the gym, but you're only allowed to pick up a 2 kg weight. You know, you're not allowed to be able to press your body weight at the gym, because that's weird, because you're a 60-year-old woman. So there is still a lot of challenges, I think, for women our age to still fight through.
Yeah. And you make midlife look so exciting, you know, and so aspirational, just, you know, getting fit at 45. And I relate to that, because I started, you know, the first time I ever hit the gym was around that age. And because of menopause, my body started to change. But started, you know, riding bikes at 48 and then starting your own business, it just makes it so aspirational. There's so much to look forward to. And I just found it so powerful, that message around, you know, that we have to live our own lives. It's our responsibility to live our own lives. And what a lovely thing that your husband said, you know, it's so powerful. So thank you for that. And Tanya, over to you.
Thanks, Faith. Yeah, so I loved going back to what you said, Pauline, about the saggy knees, or whatever, how you described it. I remember seeing a photo of myself in a triathlon I did in my late 40s, and when you pound on the ground and your foot's hitting the ground, there's this like scrunched up knee, and I didn't realize I had it, because, you know, when you stand still looking at yourself, you often don't see that. And I go, oh my goodness, is that what's happened to me? My skin's this like big scrumpled up like mess. But anyway, that didn't matter, because I was doing the actual triathlon. So yeah, it was kind of funny though, that these things sneak up on you without you even realizing it's actually, you know, all of a sudden it's your whole skin and body's changed without you even realizing sometimes. Yes, so back to the question. I've had lots of challenges in midlife, but overall it's been, I think, the best part of my life. I'm so privileged to even be alive, I suppose, because my dad died when he was 47 of a sudden heart attack. So he never even reached the age I am now. So I see living any year after 47 as a huge privilege. And I think actually, I always knew my dad was young when he died, but when you're in your mid-20s, you kind of think 47 seems like a long way away. But as I approached the age my dad was when he died, I really did have to come to terms with facing my own mortality, I suppose. And that really allowed me to think about things in such a different light. And it made me overcome so many of my self-limiting beliefs of how I'd lived my life previously, because I thought, if I only live a short life like my dad, you know, time's running out, and there's so many things I haven't done in my life so far, like nothing. And I'd kind of been a bit of an underachiever and a bit of a perfectionist that had never actually gone and done the things that she wanted to do. So getting to that stage, 47, was a huge turning point for me. And I think it's really, as terrible as that was, that's happened in my life, it's given me the opportunity to really step out of my comfort zone and start truly living this, you know, the second part of my life. And yeah, I'm feel so happy that I have this chance to do that. And a bit like Kathy, I've done so many things as well that I had never, I'd always wanted to do, but I'd never actually had a chance. Like I took up surfing in my late 40s and been multi-day hiking in New Zealand and Tasmania, and what else? I've done a solo trip to Santorini to celebrate my 50th birthday. All these lots of things that I kind of was always too scared to do, but yeah, I've always wanted to do, but kind of always never actually felt the courage to do them. So midlife's given me that opportunity to do those. But I've had my challenges as well. Like I have, like, you know, although I've lived this quite really healthy life most of my life, I have an osteoarthritic toe joint, which has caused quite a few issues. So I started training for my very first marathon when I was 47. So that was the first kind of the impetus for me for my kind of athletic career, I suppose. When I started to reach the age my dad was when he died, I decided to run the marathon that I'd wanted to do for 30 years, but never thought I was capable of, and realized I had an osteoarthritic toe joint in the middle of that. So that's caused quite a few challenges, like no more high heels for me, sadly. But saying that, I haven't let it stop me. So I've run a marathon, I've done 3 half Ironman triathlons, and last year I did a full Ironman triathlon, and all able to do that with my osteoarthritic toe joint. There's a bit of pain involved, but it's amazing what you can do when you set your mind to it. and you really do try. And that, I think all of us, by the time we reach midlife, we're going to have some kind of pain and issues and injuries or genetic issues and things like that. But I don't feel like that's necessarily a reason to stop us. So we might not be able to do, like I might not be able to run as fast as I could if I didn't have this toe joint issue, but I can still do it, and I can still hobble along and get through things. I actually in the Ironman, there was this man, he was just amazing. He ran the whole leg of the marathon. So you do a marathon after you've swum 3.8k swim and 180k bike ride, and he ran the marathon on crutches the entire way. He's a man in his 60s. So just there's some inspirational people out there that show that regardless of, you know, your issues, there's still ways to get to your goals. And yeah, I find that really interesting. Some of the other things that I've found challenging in midlife is that I kind of an older mum. So I had teenage children going through puberty at exactly the same time I was going through menopause. So that created lots of challenges, and still kind of does. And I kind of find it a little bit funny because a lot of my friends are either empty nesters or even grandparents. So I'm still here with kids in secondary school. So it's kind of, yeah, I find that quite challenging. I'm not sure about other people. I'm not sure whether it's, I look at some of my friends who have had children and they're gone. I think, oh my goodness, it's like, yeah, I wish I'd maybe had children early, but I'm super lucky to have them. So yeah. and then again, the menopause transition was, although I'm postmenopausal now and I feel like I'm living my best life ever and feeling healthier than I ever have before, the transition was a huge thing for me, actually, because I was training for this Ironman triathlon right as I hit postmenopause and my hormones flatlined, and had to get over lots and lots of things like the sleep, and in the middle of training for some other things I was having, you know, up all night having night sweats and things like that. So that was a huge challenge for me. But saying that, I feel like menopause has kind of been the hardest thing in my life, but also the best thing in my life, because it allowed me to reevaluate so many little things that I hadn't thought about. So I've always exercised and I've always eaten quite well, but I neglected things like sleep and stress management. And menopause has allowed me to re-look at all of those kind of things and actually create a healthier overall lifestyle than I had before. So yeah, very grateful.
Thank you. And what really stood out to me was around your father's, death at 47 and how pivotal that was for you in really, as you approached your 47th birthday, really grabbing hold of life. And it seems like that's really kind of changed the way you approach the rest of your life, really, and seeing it as a gift.
Yeah, it's changed. It was just this pivotal point in my life when I go, oh my goodness, like if I could, I could die next year if same thing happens as my dad did. And, I need to make the most of every day and every opportunity that I have and make the most of this life and stop going, I should have, could have, would have, actually do it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Excellent. Okay, so the next two questions are going to be focused around fitness, because this is all three of you's area of expertise. So the next question is, research shows that health and fitness play a significant role in aging well. What is your experience? So let's go to Kathy.
Well, it changed my life. Right. It changed my life completely. I was overweight, administration manager type person, and became a personal trainer. So being fit and healthy absolutely changed my life. But I think a great example is that today in my circuit class this morning at 7 o'clock this morning was Gloria. Now, Gloria turned 89 yesterday, did a full hour's circuit class with everybody else in the class being average age early 60s, mid 50s, early 60s. Gloria did every exercise everybody else did, and then went to have coffee with the girls. So, and Bob, that's the person I want to be when I'm 89. And so I've got living examples around me every day of how being fit and healthy helps you age well. Even I take a class with it used to be the Australian Heart Foundation Heart Moves classes, and I have continued those classes on Bribey. And so the average age of those participants in those classes ranges, I suppose, from 50 to very late 80s. But all those women, and it is predominantly women, are exercising to keep fit and healthy. And they make time to do it, and they're all aging so well. And it's inspiring. It inspires me every day to do what I do for myself, because I see older women doing it for themselves. I have herniated discs. If I wasn't exercising the way I exercise, I've been told that I would be bedridden if my muscles weren't strong enough to hold me up like they do. As I say, I ride Harley motorbikes. My motorbike, the one I'm riding currently, weighs around 400 kilos, and I can push that forward and backwards and move it around because of what I do. It helps you be socially active. It keeps you, I think it means that if you look after yourself in mid-age, you can do whatever you want. If you want to run around with your grandchildren, you can do that. If you want to climb a mountain, you can do that. And that's the difference about being fit and healthy. It's not about being a size 8 and having perky boobs. It's not about that. It's about being able to do whatever you choose to do whenever you want to do it. It's the baseline that I work on with my clients, whatever their goals are. I just want them to be able to do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. And I think that's what's really important about being fit and healthy and aging well with it.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're going to go straight over to Paula, to Tanya. Sorry, Tanya. I've been trying to unmute you for a while. Yeah, there you go.
So like Kathy, I really do feel like leading a health and fit life really does allow you to thrive as we age. So I look at my mum, who's 76. She hasn't actually ever done really hardly any formal exercise. She goes on a bit of a bushwalk each week, but she's just lived this really active, moving life, and she's not on any medication. She's kind of managed her weight without really thinking about it. She's never been on a diet in her life, and she's just this like kind of, I don't know, I look at her and I think this is like natural movement is. This is what someone like maybe kind of in the blue zones area where people live till, you know, they're centenarians, and she lives this kind of life. She's just moves a lot. If you put a step counter on her, I'm sure she'd do 20,000 steps a day without even trying. So she just moves regularly. And I look at her and I think that there's a 76-year-old that's like that, and then there's, you know, 76-year-old people who are in a nursing home. And I look at my mum and I think that that's probably the difference, is that she has moved a lot and kept herself active. And so I kind of aspire to be like my mum, I suppose. And with adding some other things, like I really do believe that strength training is the key for us to prevent osteoporosis and prevent sarcopenia, which is like muscle mass loss and things like that, so we can stay strong and fit and healthy. For example, when we're, especially women around our age, you know, the aspiration was always to be super skinny. But now my aspiration is to be a strong older woman, not a skinny older woman, because skinny older women have much more risk of falls and fracturing bones and things like that. So obviously some women are naturally slimmer than others, if you know what I mean, but I want to have muscle on my frame. It's a necessity so I can keep fit and healthy and not be one of those women in a nursing home falling. Or I think if you have a hip fracture when you're older, like the risk of mortality goes up like significantly. So I see exercise and health as keeping me out of the nursing home. And I'm not just keeping myself out of a nursing home. I want to be traveling and sightseeing all day on foot all over the world, because I mean, we've had 2 years where we haven't even been able to travel. So there's so many things I want to do, and leading this fit, healthy lifestyle is going to allow me to actually do that. Sorry, I've just lost my train of thought at the moment. And I also really do believe that we need to look at health span, not just lifespan. So I don't want to live to 91 like my mum, my nan, but be in ill health. I want to live to 91 and be vibrant until I die.
Beautiful, thank you. Pauline?
You can hear me? Fantastic. Yeah, I just what everyone else has said. I think health, because I've got a dance background, so I've done a lot of exercise in my life. I've done a lot of dancing. I've done a lot of yoga. I've done a lot of gym work. I've done a lot of things. And in my 50s, I found that I want to do slightly different things. And so what I want from my health and my fitness practices now is very holistic. I want it to affect how I feel, as well as how especially, letting go of it only being about how I look. Like, Kathy said about the perky boobs. Let's let go of that, and now it's about how I feel. So what I really like about being really active and moving, that's why I love dance, because it's just like moves you in lots of different directions and in lots of different ways. And I sort of feel like it affects my, I do a lot of research into the neurology of movement. So what brain chemicals it's stimulating, so that you can get a sense of well-being from your fitness, as well as sort of the physical attributes. And I think, for me, dancing is beautiful because it has something about the spirit in it as well. Like, so I teach a lot of online classes. I teach face-to-face classes. And usually every time I teach a class, there's this moment in the class, I call it, it's my moment, where I completely surrender to movement, and I'm just a woman moving, and I feel completely free and completely happy. And I love that sort of uplifting thing. And I actually do a lot of things for like opening the chest and lifting your arms up and sort of getting that uplift, I think, because I think, we live in stressful, dark times as well. So I want my health and fitness to be a haven, to be a kind of sanctuary for me. So I put a lot of emphasis on fun. especially my classes, but also for me. And for instance, I used to do a lot of Iyengar yoga, which was you'd hold positions for a very long time. And I've actually switched to yin yoga now, which is a much more passive form of yoga. But boy, does it open my body up, and it really helps with my meditation. It really helps with calming me down. It really helps with my sleep. So for me, it's been that thing about not working so hard for my fitness, but finding ways to live a fit and active life. So I often encourage my students to do things while they're boiling the kettle, or if you've got a kitchen bench that's a good sort of height, do a little yoga stretch on it, or, like doing those things during the day, like your Kegel exercises, do them at a red light, so that your whole life is kind of connected to your own health and well-being. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just so we can get through the next question, I'm going to leave the last question. So this question is going to be our final one. Okay. So as women in our 50s and 60s, we'll be excited to know that according to research, we'll reach our career peak from 65 years old. And with retirement now believed to be redundant, can you share some of your personal and professional goals for the coming years? Okay, let's let me start with you, Tanya. Go for it.
I'm on. Well, I just loved reading that, Faith, when you shared that and when you've spoken about it, because I really do feel like my real career is finally just starting. So I kind of worked in a bit of a corporate environment in my 20s and 30s, had children later in life, and I've only ever worked part-time since I've had my children. So I've got this super exciting plan for 3 years when my son finishes secondary school, that my real career is just starting, and I'm so excited that I hopefully will have all of this time to actually achieve all my my career goals. So yeah, I just love it. So and I think it as well. I look at so I trained as a fitness trainer when I was 25, when my dad died, actually. So that was the instigator for me becoming a fitness trainer, because I wanted to save all of the midlife people from dying young like my dad did. So I trained as a fitness trainer then, and I kept wandering around the gym trying to find people and trying to help them live this healthy midlife. And obviously, as a 25-year-old, I probably didn't have a lot of credibility. I think I knew my stuff. I did a lot of research and things. But now, as a 53-year-old midlifer who has had 30 years of experience and knowledge and extra study, now I think I actually really have got the credibility that I have kind of wanted. So yeah, we have so much more. We have so much to offer as midlifers in our careers, I think. I mean, we've got all of this experience, wisdom, and knowledge that younger people don't have. And I think it's crazy that, people even want to consider retiring when they're young. I hope to be working until, I don't know, forever. I'm hoping that the career that I'm creating now it's kind of like my passion, and it doesn't feel like a job. It feels like something I love doing, and helping people in a way, that's going to benefit their life.
Yeah. And we can really see that passion, that real sense of embodying career, as opposed to just doing it. So that's great. Thank you. Okay, let's go to Pauline.
Yeah, this is a lovely question. And when I heard about the word retire, I've always been, I never want to retire, because I love what I do so much. I think it's, exactly what Tanya said, and one of the interesting things for me is like I said, I used to be a dance academic, and I got told like in my 40s that it was really good for me to stop teaching dance classes and to actually just go into research, because that's where the money was. And the idea of sitting behind a desk all day, really, I'd rather die. And so I gave up a much more lucrative career to have less money so I could be happier in my career. And now I'm so happy with what I do. I'm quite ambitious now about developing my business. So New Moves has grown very organically. I've got more work than I can handle. I've started to hire other dancers to fill in for classes. You know, I've developed a certain skill around online delivery, which has been really good for my technological skills. But it's also allowed me to reach very isolated, vulnerable, disabled, infirm people as well, people who are shy. So I really feel like that's good. And I've also sort of got plans to create things like passive income. And I've become, I used to, you know, as an academic, I used to, you know, sort of sneer at things like marketing and promotion and stuff like that. And now I've realized it's just about telling your story. It's just about loving what you do, and it's just about communicating that, you know. So I said to one class the other day, I said, you know, I'm going to be teaching these classes until I fall over completely. And even if I can't walk anymore, I'm gonna do it from a chaise lounge. I'm going to do it from a red chaise lounge. And there's this singer called Gwen Dickey who became paralyzed at 59. She used to be in the band Rolls Royce. And now she comes on stage on a red chaise lounge and sings from it. And I just found that, like, you do what you can. You just keep moving. You just keep singing. You just keep dancing. You just keep whatever it is that sort of juices you up and turns you on. You just keep doing it. And I just want to keep doing it. And I feel so blessed that I've got, you know, a life that's so full of joy, you know, because I do what I love.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. Kathy?
Well, my career goals changed completely in December because my husband was killed in a motorcycle crash. So I became a widow at the end of last year. So I'm actually still trying to rehash my life, work out what I'm going to do next, but I can't imagine not doing what I'm doing. How can I step away at 62 and say, oh, I'm too old to be a personal trainer when I've got an 89-year-old doing my classes? You know, I expect to be able to, and I've had clients who are younger than me saying, I want to be doing this till my 80s. So I'm in my 80s, and I sort of worked it out that I'd have to be training them when I'm like 94 for them to be doing it in their 80s. And I said, oh, I might have to stop eventually. But my career, like, I do love what I do. And I find it, when I first became a personal trainer, all I wanted, because my life had changed so much for the better when I became fit and healthy, all I wanted to achieve was to have one other woman at 50 years old go, oh my God, I feel so great. I want to do a bodybuilding show. Like, if I could encourage just one other woman to feel that good about herself, I was happy. That's all I wanted to achieve. And every day I get clients who I know I'm helping them become more confident in their age, more stronger in what they do. And I don't want to ever stop doing that. But unfortunately, because of my circumstances at present, my whole life's right up in the air. I've got to, whereas like I used to work about 4 hours in the morning and maybe a couple of hours in the evening, I'm now getting up at 4 a.m. and starting at 6 and working till lunchtime and having an hour's break and working 3 till 5 o'clock to fit everything that we both used to do into the business until I can organize what I'm doing next. But it's, and of course, going through the grief process at the same time has been very difficult. If a lot of things, in a lot of ways, my business has saved me, because while I'm trying to juggle everything, it does help me cope with Andrew's death. But at the same time, it's very hard to be in a situation where he was always there. So yeah, my life's changing completely right now. And but I couldn't imagine doing it without being healthy and fit, that's for sure.
Thank you very much. And I'm really sorry about your husband. Yeah, I must have like put your life in a direction you weren't really expecting. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I love what you said, that your business actually saved you. That was like kind of like the prop, the kids, you know, kind of scaffolded you.
Yes, yeah, it does. My clients certainly support me right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to continue without my clients being so amazing for me. So it works both ways. I think so.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and I really related to everything all of you said around just that, the passion growing as we get older, that second career, and feeling like this is our career, this is the work we're meant to do. You know, like a lot of you know that I transitioned from 30 years in the fashion industry to, at the age of 51, going to uni and becoming a psychotherapist, and then obviously leading me to this path with Silver Sirens. I just feel like that second half of our lives really then being the work that we're meant to do, and I love that. So thank you all so much. What I'm going to do before I do any of the final housekeeping, just so we can keep it in here, I'll just want to go around the room and just, if you can just share just some parting words for our beautiful viewers, our attendees. So, okay, so just think about just a parting message you'd like to leave with everyone. Why don't I go to you, Pauline, first?
It's been very lovely to be here. I think one of the things that I love about being a 60-year-old woman who dances every day is that I feel like I've reinvented my own sensuality. So my own enjoyment in my own body, because I got told that aging was a decline, and I don't feel like I'm in decline. I feel like I'm constantly rediscovering what my body's capable of, and that maybe there's great things about aging. It's not just something that you have to put up with or fix, you know. And I do sort of feel that the wisdom, that my body's wiser too. I'm more attuned to my body. And because I teach women only classes too, I really indulge in this whole thing of wiggling your boobs and shaking your hips and like doing all that stuff without the male gaze, so that you can feel free to be a really sensual woman in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you know? Yeah.
Kathy?
Totally agree with Pauline. Love your body. Okay, it's not your 20-year-old body, but it's your 50s or 60s or 70-year-old bodies. And like Andrew and I had a great sex life. It's one of the things I'm missing the most. It's, you know, it's tough. But if you'd asked me when I was in my 20s with 60-year-olds enjoy sex, I'd be like, oh, come on, how ugly. But it's not, you know, embrace yourself. And if you look after your health and fitness, I believe it really is the best times of your life, you know. You want to, I think what people need to realize is if you look after yourself, then you can look after others. Because a lot of women a lot of my clients will say to me, I can't fit you in because I've got to look after this person or that person, and I've got to be here and I've got to be there. And I try to make them realize that if they look after themselves, they'll be able to do that. They'll be able to help their mum or their daughter or whatever, because they'll be fit and healthy enough to do that. And when crazy things like sudden deaths happen, you actually have the ability to get through because you're that much healthier in your own mind and body. Because fitness isn't just about bodies, it's about mental fitness and health as well. My training has helped me mentally through all of this so much. And talking to a grief counsellor the other day, it was funny because he went to lecture me, you know, about exercising because it was so good for depression and grief. And I was like, excuse me, personal trainer, I know this stuff, you know. So yeah, just remember, it's also very much about your mental health, being fit and healthy as well.
Beautiful, thank you. Tanya?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Pauline and Kathy have said. I've actually learned so much from them today. It's been really great. I kind of want to just reiterate about prioritizing your health. It really is so important. We need to, investing in our health is an investment in our future, and without our health we really do have nothing. So I really think it's so important to prioritize ourselves and for us to be a role model. I want to be a role model for my daughter and her children and things like that. So I want to show the younger women coming behind me that we can live this vibrant, healthy life into old age. And if you aren't your healthiest at the moment, it really is never too late. Like you can make changes and turn your life around. And, you know, we all have our issues. When we get to midlife, regardless of, you know, what's going on, everyone's got issues. We might have genetic issues. We might have lifestyle diseases. We might have some joint issues, but there's always something we can do, and it really is never too late. And it's so important as well to find things that you like. I might give you the perfect exercise plan, but if you don't enjoy doing it, you're never going to do it. So you need to find a way to move that brings you joy and makes you happy. And that really is the key, because I want to be, you need to be doing it for the rest of your life. It's not just a 3-week or 6-month or 1-year thing. It's a rest of your life thing. So you need to find ways to move and live a healthy life and foods to eat that you love.
Beautiful. Thank you, all three of you. Thank you, Tanya, Pauline, and Kathy. What a powerful message. And like, Tanya said, I too have learned so much, because for me, fitness only became an issue when I hit menopause, and before that it wasn't. And for me now, it's at the very core of my whole aging plan, and it's something that I look forward to, and I'm so grateful for it. So thank you for your wisdom and enthusiasm and passion. I really, really felt it through the screen. Really appreciate all of that. Yeah, so we're going to just finish off now. So before we finish, we're just going to mention some of our prize winners. So we've got wonderful prizes for some of our speakers. So we've got, so the winner for